This is actually the last Hug event of the year. I can't believe that. So it'd be really nice for us to just have a nice kind of overview of the trends that we have recognized in education in HubSpot this year. And I thought it'd be a really nice one for us all to kind of overview, have a look at our experiences, maybe give you some ideas for how you can better utilize the tools for next year. And as we're kind of talking, we will keep an eye on the chat so we can hear your opinions or hear any kind of insights or questions that you might have throughout the event. So it'd be really nice to see that as well. So I'm Sophie. I am a senior business consultant at HubGem. I specialise in the implementation of HubSpot CRM for education. So I'm going to pass you on to the CEO and founder of HubGem, Gemma.
Hello. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a hug, so it's good to be back. And I noticed our hug community has grown quite a bit in the last few months since my last event. So yeah, fantastic. So I think I'm CEO and founder of HubGem. As most of you know, we work with HubSpot users across the education space all over the world. And so, yeah, really excited to sort of be taking a moment to step back and look at some of the trends we've seen this year. And yeah, quite excited about this topic. And I'd love to introduce you as well to James on the call. James, you can do a bit of an intro.
Yeah, thanks, Gemma. Good to see you again. Hi, Sophie. Good to see you again too. Yeah, my name is James Murphy. I am delighted to be here today. Thanks for the invitation. I have been at HubSpot 7 years, coming up on 7 years now in January, so quite a while. And in that time, I've kind of built out the education sales vertical for HubSpot in EMEA. And it's been a joy and a privilege to do that. I've met a lot of really good people, worked with a lot of customers continuously through that time, and a lot of great partners in this space as well. HubGem being one of them. Really kind of keen to, I suppose, with a partner that works in the space to have a conversation and maybe to have a little bit of a retrospect, a look back at 2023 to see which parts of the platform that users in your space have been diving into and why they've been doing it and maybe what that looks like in 2024. So really keen to have this conversation today. Thanks for the invite.
Lovely. And we actually we go back quite a few years, James. You actually first sold HubSpot to me back when I worked in a school. So when I was on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, that's how long I'm doing this, Gemma. I actually sold to you originally. Yeah. You were a customer my first year. You were a very good prospect, I have to say.
Thanks.
And then it was really actually, just for the people on the call, I actually worked with Gemma to help her to implement HubSpot, to procure it for the school you were working with at the time. And you did a really good job implementing it there. Surprise, surprise. And I started using you as case studies and customer reference calls, and you were really helpful in that regard. And I think then you probably speak to this a little bit better to yourself, but I think your entrepreneurial spirit got the better of you maybe a couple of years later, and you saw an opportunity to jump into the space to provide that support and consultancy for other education organizations that were considering making the plunge into a platform such as HubSpot. So yeah, we've known each other for coming up on, I'd say, about 6.5 years now. So
yeah, something like that. It was it was a big eye opener. I think we were probably one of the earlier schools to adopt HubSpot, and suddenly, wow, look at this whole world here. Look at what's possible here. And so I was quite happy to shout about it, and even more happy to shout about it now. Now I've made the leap. So fantastic. So yeah, we're really excited to get stuck in. As James has said there, like my background was working within a school implementing HubSpot. And then since then, of course, we work with a whole range of education organizations all over implementing HubSpot. And when we say education as well, we all know, anyone in the space knows how broad that can be. So, we might be talking schools, we might be talking colleges, universities, training providers. And I think we're really seeing a really broad range of types of providers really sort of keen to embrace new ways of working. So, if we say school, we're just as much talking about colleges and universities, you know, across the board. James, did I miss any on my list there?
Probably, but variation some of them that you discussed. We can bring them up later on. But yeah, it's maybe the wrong reference to use, but it's quite a broad church, is how I describe it. There's a lot of variations of different sides of the sector. How is it dealing directly with the students, or is it actually a business that works with the university to help students, do their courses? Is it e-learning? Is it online? Is it red brick? I suppose the catch-all term is, do they help people to better themselves through education in some way? And yeah, as you say, there's a lot of organizations within there that do. And just something you said at the start when we first met each other, if you think about how far HubSpot has come in that time, I think, we just had a marketing hub then. And to look at that both widen in terms of, 4 other hubs now and more coming down the track, and then deepen into a starter and a professional and enterprise grade, it's quite mind-blowing when you look at it from a big picture view like that.
Yeah, it's a different world. A lot can change in that time.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we're going to be diving into some of the key trends that we've seen across the sector. And of course, we're going to look at this from both sides of the coin here, from HubSpot directly, from James, and also our the things we've seen as a partner as well. So we'll get stuck in. Hopefully the slides will come back.
I know, I do apologize. I'm just going to, I don't know what's happened there, so I'm just going to share my screen again and try and find my slides again. I do apologize. Okay, let me just go back onto here. Okay, there we go. Oh, I do apologize.
I can always mine if not.
Interview.
It was going so smoothly.
I know, it was going a little bit too smoothly, I think. Okay, I think this should do it. Can you see everything okay?
It's not sure.
Not the slides just yet. You'll get it though. Don't worry, Sophie.
Yeah, don't worry. Whilst we're waiting on that, so
there we go.
There we go. We're in.
I do apologise. My screen just disappeared, completely disappeared. So here we go.
Yeah, so we're going to be focusing on sort of 3 key things that we have seen as sort of, I think, some of the biggest trends. So we're going to be talking about group-wide HubSpot rollouts and what we've seen there. Looking at some of the needs for automating just some of the workload, and that covers a whole range of things, but high volume, low value queries where does it need to be a person picking something up, and then dive in a little bit more into how users in the space have been embracing the customization of the CRM. Great, so let's get stuck into to the first one. So James, group rollouts is something we've both commented on a few times over the past year, that we're just seeing more and more of it. So what have you seen in your experience?
Yeah, so first off, it's obviously a really exciting thing. Let's talk about 2 different sides of the coin, right? I'll talk about maybe, say, mergers and acquisitions in a kind of fictitious online learning space. And then you could talk about a school group that's kind of just deciding to get bigger with HubSpot. I suppose on the former, I'm seeing a lot post-COVID, right? So during COVID, there was a massive spike in people changing their careers, trying to upskill, more transactional learning. And a lot of that was done online. And in every kind of boom, there's losers and winners in that, right? And what I've seen, particularly in, say, the back end of last year and the start of this year, was a hell of a lot of mergers and acquisitions in the online training space and in the e-learning space. So some people got really big and they started acquiring other companies, and it's cross-border. So when that happens, like HubSpot's up to 100, our last quarterly earnings call, I think it was 194 or 184,000 customers, paying customers. So pretty soon, by the middle of next year, we'll be over 200,000 paying customers. That's a lot of businesses that potentially could be acquired that will have a CRM that is maybe HubSpot or mightn't. And I suppose if I'm CEO of a business that's just acquired another organization and I've got 2 outlays for 2 different CRM vendors, it's not going to happen for too long. So we're getting an increasing amount of companies that are looking at either, okay, company A has a CRM, it's Salesforce, company B has HubSpot, which will we use? Maybe it's a case that one company has HubSpot, the other one doesn't have a CRM, and many different variations of it. So aligning their teams and consolidating the businesses, now there's a various ways of doing that, into one CRM. It obviously involves a lot of planning, but it will require, increasing your subscription with HubSpot. And there's a multitude of different ways, and we're going to go through them in a minute in terms of the features within the platform that allow a business to approach that. But I suppose the context that I would describe it as an awful lot of mergers and acquisitions. You might perhaps talk about an organization that's just growing, either through more skills being added or moving into other countries.
Yeah, no, we've certainly seen that, and I agree. It's a post-COVID boom in that side of things. I think on what we're seeing a lot of is school groups, college groups, or clusters of universities who have either never had a CRM and want to just say, right, we're going to implement, let's go big here, we're going to go across the group, often have been quite frustrated with, they use this system and this, and that team use spreadsheets, and, the usual story there. So I think we're seeing quite a lot where they've never really had a fit for purpose CRM solution who suddenly want to, and they happen to already be a group with multiple brands. And likewise, we've had a few where maybe one of the brands within a group had already, or one of the schools or colleges had already had HubSpot in place, and then the other sort of elements of the group, what's going on there? What are they doing? We need to get in on that. And so it sort of probably grows organically, and then of course as they, if they are back to mergers and acquisitions, but if they've already got something like HubSpot in place and they're adding in, we're just introducing a new college to the group, then I think HubSpot does make it quite easy to bring that in. So of course, when we're talking about rolling out to a group, there's quite a few considerations around what is the right approach, and it can be a bit of a challenge to work out what is the right approach here. So this grid here is one that I've seen a few times. Do you want to talk through, James, some of the considerations that these groups are having to think about?
Yeah, it's about really bringing all the stakeholders in and making sure that you're not, for lack of a better word, your communication isn't siloed to one department, because you got to understand and respect that choosing to move your technology stack into a CRM it involves a lot of people and involves a lot of planning, and everyone's going to have different preferences and objectives. So if we look at it just broadly, the first thing you need to decide, if 2 businesses have a CRM, is it your place or mine? Where are we going, right? So generally how mature or advanced things like integrations are in one of those CRM setups will probably indicate that, or maybe the size of a database and how successful the organization, that would help also be a factor. But once you kind of decide which one we're going to consolidate on, and I'm doing this at the moment actually with a French business school that's been acquired, and we're going in the process of deciding which instance to kind of beef up. Then it's a question of, well, there's 2 different ways of doing that, really. If we take the first 2 first, if it is a case that you require one environment of HubSpot, right? So you get the benefits of transparency with what you want to see across that environment, sharing of best practices, but you still get the ability to completely lock down access, permissions, and to delineate brand settings across those 2 different businesses, because that's really, really important. Things like subscription types for emails and all that kind of stuff. And they're really important considerations to take. If that's the case, and generally it is, and especially if you're working with multiple brands that are not maybe in the same industry, or maybe the 2 brands don't want to be known as one brand, then it really makes sense to basically procure a business unit for that additional brand within the CRM that you decide to build on. So for lack of a better word, it's almost like having one instance of HubSpot, but Chinese walls between each business. So the organization gets the continuity, also the savings from software by having one license and being able to leverage the power of HubSpot's platform across two businesses. But you get to create your kind of partitions and your delineation and your, I suppose, your security controls and all those things that are really important between the two organizations, so that effectively me and Sophie could be working for two different businesses in the same group. We could be working in the CRM. We might never see ourselves or the people we're selling to, but the higher ups then can have a global view, which is, I suppose, the benefit. And then, of course, there's things like upsell and cross-sell campaigns that clever marketeers can do in HubSpot when both brands are in the same system. The second one that I'll just briefly touch on is like a lightweight version of that. And that might be, say, if it's a case like HubGem, for example. HubGem decides, right, you've got a really good 2024, Gemma, when you come back from maternity leave, and you're like, right, we're taking on North America, and you open up an office there, and then you do, say, Australia and New Zealand, right? And you might want to just open up a different division of that business, and maybe you want to call it a slightly different name down under than you do in the States. In that case, because it's headquartered from Lincoln still, and you're clearly all one brand, even though you've got slightly different names, you'd probably be fine with one HubSpot account, but by breaking it out by multiple different domains. And what that means is you don't get the same robust division of permissions and subscription types and teams being completely siloed. But there is an element of it, but you can publish content and break down analytics and publish knowledge bases for each of those three websites from one HubSpot account. So it's like a lightweight version of the business units. And then finally, the last version, and this really is more of a case when maybe a company has been using HubSpot for a very long time, and there are things, say, in a professional or enterprise license that they really, really like that aren't fully replicated in business units yet. They sometimes just don't want to share their organization in one instance, and will actually have separate individual accounts for each brand or partner that is part of the business. And they're very, I suppose, there's specific reasons why that are quite complex and niche as to why they wouldn't want to for everyone to be in one environment. But we're seeing less of that as the product grows and more business units being leveraged. I personally think it's been a big trend in my space this year, helping customers to merge and use business units for each brand.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And we've seen, we've got customers across all three of those different setups there. Like, they really do vary. Some of that main features that they get when you're talking, we're talking enterprise here. I think once we're into the realms of group wide, we're really talking enterprise subscriptions, of course, especially for domains and for business units, but it is that segmentation. So the ability to have team only viewing permissions, having the ability to segment and silo stuff a lot more, while still having the group wide reporting they're sort of the main features that jump out, as well as assigning like marketing assets to different brands. That's a big one as well. So yeah, here are just a couple of our brands we've worked with that have done group wide rollouts over the last year or so. We've got Access Creative College. They've been a really great example of quite a large group with loads and loads of different so there's centers within the different brands, and it includes there's the three brands there: Access Creative, DBS Institute, Access Sports, and there is a new one as well, and then within that all the different centers that each of these brands is made up of, and they've done a really successful group-wide rollout of HubSpot that has seen huge success, actually it's quite central teams. So it's quite central for marketing, it's quite central for admissions. So in that case, where you have these central teams and, they don't have to lock stuff down fully. Some areas do need to be, and of course at enterprise, you have the ability to do that anyway. But, in that use case, that's a really good setup for domains, especially where you have staff members working across sort of multiple areas of the business. And then another one we've got Bellevue. So this is a group of schools, independent schools, all very separate brands. And all come under one group, but actually as brands, they wouldn't be sharing any data. The leads wouldn't cross over, the contacts on HubSpot wouldn't cross over. So in that example, we'd really be looking more at the business units, so they can properly segment based on whatever they're set really, but certainly marketing assets and subscription types and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, and of course we have others who have got usually usually sort of customers who've been around a while, who have got long-term HubSpot instances set up, who then who are operating on separate portals. Of course, the downside there is that there is no sort of central login place where at group level you can see everything. So a real mixed bag, but I think it's good that HubSpot does accommodate all the different versions.
Yeah, I would just say maybe 2 follow-up points and we can move on. It takes a little bit of planning and a little bit of work, and it's a little disruptive in the initial early phase to do this, but the benefits quickly accrue, even in license costs. Like, it doesn't take a genius to work out, like, 1 HubSpot contract is going to be more economical than 4. So that's something to bear in mind. And also the efficiencies, being able to cross-pollinate your database, cross-sell across brands, being able to share best practices, and for leadership to have one global view, even standardizing rollouts of new hires. It's just one system across the organization. They're things that make aligning in one CRM really kind of a no-brainer if an organization is scaling rapidly, or a group looking to go down the route of a better use of technology. And the second point I would say, and it goes for the entire partner network, I always strongly recommend customers who are going down this route to bring in someone outside with the skills, with the expertise, not just to implement the change, but to help them to manage the change. Change management is a big piece of this, and having an outside voice in their room, bringing teams together, just cuts out a lot of the friction that may exist if they're trying to do it themselves. So I know that you've been very involved in lots of these, and some of our other partners have, but it's a must-have, I would suggest, to anyone on the call that's considering it.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So onto our next trend then, which is actually around sort of saving time for these busy teams. So everybody this year is super busy, right? There's more traffic, there's more leads, there's more conversations than ever before, and that doesn't always mean they're the most valuable conversations. So another trend that we've really seen this year is sort of the real hunger for what can we do to automate these high volumes. Hopefully you can hear me. I think my microphone muted that. Yeah. So what can we do to automate as much as possible, save some of the workload from the teams, whilst also giving people a good customer experience? So James, is that something as well that you've come across?
Yeah, it is, Gemma. So again, it's funny, like there's kind of like a lag period. I suppose what we talked about previously of business units, they've been around for a couple of years. And later on, we're going to talk about custom objects, which aren't new. And I guess a lot of this fits into the Service Hub space, which has been around for a while. But so like our HubSpot product team has shipped something crazy, like 400 product updates already this year. But it takes customers a while to start to grab them. So I saw this year anyway in the education space a big uptick in customers looking to leverage some of the automation power, particularly within the Service Hub. And I suppose primarily through things like knowledge base. It's quite a simple, effective option, essentially a public-facing page on your website that allows customers to search for their challenge or query and to be directed to a guide that can be multi-channel. It can have video, it can have images, it can have text, and then to kind of give an answer of whether that was helpful or not. Now, we're kind of saying high volume, low value. I think the subtext there is annoying, right? Yeah, and like think in the, say, student recruitment, the student enrollment cycle, I know from speaking to people in admissions and other departments that there's times of the year where they're pulling their hair out by answering the same question millions of times. Like, what time does term start? How do I do this? When do I need to apply for that? During COVID, what are the regulations? All that kind of stuff. So it's expensive to have people manning that on a phone or on an email or on live chat if they're using it. Also, let's be realistic, meet the customer where they want to be met. Like, kids these days they're scared of the phone. They don't want to pick up the phone, let alone send an email sometimes. So what we're seeing really is using HubSpot, which you can, for those that don't know, you can build very easy to build, chat flows, chat bots on your website. You do not need to be anyway technical to do it. And you can kind of preload text and then answers and suggest a couple of queries. But the nice thing is, if you have the knowledge base, based on what they answer, you can then spin them off and direct them to that page on your website, all automated, by the way, to a page on the website where they can find the answers themselves, which suits a lot of people and also suits you, that you don't need to have a human manning this conversation, which, is obviously a big expense. And people's time now could be better spent with their heads up, concentrating on bigger strategies. So yeah, I've just seen a lot of colleges, particularly around clearing, really go beyond this and to double down on it, and then find use cases at different times of the year. Obviously, the knowledge base is pretty cool in the back end. You can then get tips on what topics people are searching an answer for that you haven't written a knowledge base on, which obviously gives you the clues about what you need to do next. It's pretty. I've seen a big uptick in customers grabbing this year in the education space.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the multi-channel element is huge, and meeting customers where they want to communicate, because the amount of times we'll speak to a colleague and we're drowning under the workload here, like we can't take him, or we've got this stuff on the website, no one's reading it, and we get a real sense of frustration. People want to give good customer service, but at that volume, their teams aren't big enough to do it, and so. If we even were to suggest something like, what about live chat? God, we wouldn't have capacity for that. Or what about, no, we can't do that. Like, because they're swamped. So I think the fact that within HubSpot, you can bring all those channels to come into a few very tidy places, like the conversations inbox. Fantastic that you can now, the WhatsApp messages can come directly in. That was a big one for colleges this year. And I think that really, suddenly it doesn't feel impossible to try and meet your customers on these other channels. I think previously, certainly a lot of the admissions teams I spoke to, if I'd have spoken about, what about WhatsApp and what about Facebook Messenger and what about live chat? It was, that'd be great, but we can't even answer all the queries on the phone at the minute. So I think having everything coming into one place has been it is a big thing. And then the more tools like the knowledge base where you can be answering those questions, hopefully before people have had to ask, or of course, if you're using things like chatbots, making sure that people can get them answers quickly is very welcome.
Yeah, and I'll just add on that on the inbox. Like, the inbox was, to be fair, the inbox wasn't great up until I'd say maybe the start of this year, and I think you'd sense the tone when I was working with a school group or something, that you wouldn't, I wouldn't certainly play big on it to an admissions team, because it just felt like the wrong fit, live chat and email. But to be fair, the product team, as I said, they've been on fire this year, but they've added WhatsApp to it, as you said. But, calling is now a channel, which is going to be a bit of a game changer now, because, and I know I'm blowing HubSpot's trumpet here, but the inbox still has that HubSpot easy look, easy feel. It's intuitive. It's now becoming a real core part of the platform. And I think any team of any technical proficiency would actually really like working in there, because it's one central workspace where everything happens. So again, the inbox has really picked up its socks, and it's really powerful. I'm excited to see what happens next year. And I would say, it's 32 minutes and no one's mentioned AI. Must be a record, Sophie, right? In a meeting these days. I've just seen that we're actually, the chat flow, we'll talk about AI later on in the call. It's been baked into the platform, but our bots are next on the list to be kind of superseded into the AI system, and it's going to start being able to read your website and actually answer your questions without you programming it. It's gonna, and again, AI can seem like a far off land for, say, some people in the education sector, but I'm pretty sure if we're sitting here doing this next year, it'll be one of the things that teams are going to really grab onto. And again, I'll blow HubSpot's trumpet. I think we're doing it in a really kind of sensible, non-technical way, that it's just there waiting to be able to kind of add it into the platform. There's some really cool things happening in it. So I think the chat flows, working off the content on your website and answering questions in real time, I wouldn't see why any customer of HubSpot wouldn't want to at least try that to see what the results are like.
I think everyone's getting more confident with AI as well. It's everywhere and it's been talked about a lot. So I think as it just becomes more normal, I think we're already seeing a real hunger for this. And can AI in HubSpot do this? And and a lot of the things are yes, a lot are I believe that's coming soon, and some is not at the minute, but I expect that'll be on the agenda one day. So I think the types of education providers that are embracing tools like HubSpot are already, their eyes are wide open to what's possible. And I think in terms of cutting some of that workload for these busy teams, the more we can lean on AI. I can't wait until it answers all the questions nice and easily. And I think the key is as well that it's very exciting to think of it coming to the website and looking through the content on the website, as opposed to you sort of manually programming chatbots. If it's able to just go and find that, wow, what a time saver.
Big time.
Lovely. Okay. So it brings us on to our third trend. And again, we've spoken a bit about the product team and the crazy amount of updates that we've been seeing this year, which is so exciting. But I think there's been some themes, right? And one of them has been this deeper customization, the ability to make HubSpot fit whatever you need it to do in terms of the stuff you can see when you're an end user, as well as sort of making it possible to do better personalization for your customers. So I suppose, what bits have you seen here, James, that really have jumped out at you this year?
Yeah, if I could take a step back maybe for a second and add some kind of meat to the bones that you mentioned there, the context. This plays wider into the wider HubSpot journey. I think we've been around, since 2007? My maths aren't great, about 18 years maybe. That's 16 years, I think. So in that time, right, we've gone from, in the early days, just being an application. We weren't a CRM. We were a marketing application. And then about 10 years later, we kind of became a suite of different tools. We had a couple of different products. And in the last 4 years in particular, and in the last 2 years, intently, we've really focused on moving up market and becoming a full platform. And even though we use the word upmarket loosely, like not every school is a 10,000 employee organization. In fact, very few are. But schools and colleges, while some of them mightn't be upmarket or enterprises in their scale, they do have niche, processes and data structures and relationships between objects in their CRM that actually have them living in that space from their need perspective for quite a long. Now, some of their budgets mightn't be in that perspective, and that's why it's been a bit of a juggling act at times to give them what they maybe would need. And you would be at the front end of that in terms of helping them hack the system and work about ways of managing all these relationships. But yeah, this year I've seen a lot of the education space just take one of their subscriptions up into that enterprise space to unlock primarily those real strong CRM customization function features, such as custom objects, same object associations, and advanced team permissions. And maybe we'll talk about custom objects for a second. You can take associations, and then I might just finish up on the CMS membership, which excites me. But for those that don't know, HubSpot has 4 standard objects, and an object is like a record of information in your CRM. So the classic one, if I was in HubGem CRM might be James Murphy. I would have a contact record. I work at a company, HubSpot, that would have its own object, which would be a company object. There's a deal, which is like a transaction. You move through a pipeline. And then in HubSpot's standard offering, we give you a ticket object as well, which is more of a customer service kind of object. And that's plenty of latitude for a lot of organizations to run a bunch of processes and to match their needs pretty well. And they can automate things off the back of it and report off it. But in the education sector and in a lot of other industries, people want to match the CRM to their needs beyond those 4 objects. So custom objects actually came out a couple of years ago. But again, this year I've seen a massive uptick in organizations leveraging it. And they might say a university might want to, or an online e-learning company might want to create a course object and store information about James at HubSpot buying something. But what was that something? It was a course with a start date and a lecturer and a qualification. Or I'm working with a university at the moment, and a school in a well-known university has a multi-stakeholder team. One of those teams is the donation team, who want to engage with high net worth individuals to get donations. And they certainly want that information locked down from other, understandably so. So we're going to create a donor profile. And again, that can be related to a company or a deal or a ticket, but it can be locked down to different people. There's a bunch of different examples. A real estate company would probably want an object about a property. So James from HubSpot's buying this property. Here's the deal record, but the property is going to have square footage, BER rating, number of windows, all that stuff, which is really important for the business to report on. So this, while it's not a new release, far from it, I've seen countless number of organizations just make sure that their subscription has access to objects from the beginning, so they can kind of start and build the foundation to the CRM that the business needs and grow into it kind of come more comfortably. I know you want to speak about associations, which is obviously a new exciting piece, and I'm sure really helps your clients out in terms of those sometimes challenging relationships between a contact and a contact that are very natural in the education space, right?
Yeah, so I think associations has been something that we've, been completely honest, we've had a few years going, God, why is this not possible? The sector needs it. And yeah, I think associations on the whole. So here we're talking the things that have been around a while, things like association labels. So James at company HubSpot, what is the link between the two? Oh, he's employee, he is, whatever else. So I think having those labels has been quite a big one. That also really helps when it comes to automation, particularly if you let's take a school who might be using a deal pipeline to track their applications through a journey, and at some point in the journey you're going to send an email out to the contacts, to the parents of a child. The fact that you can have the association between the contact and, say, the deal or the custom object, depending what route, and they may well have parents, but they might also have, emergency contacts. They might have agents. They might have, teachers linked to them. The fact that using workflows when you're communicating now, you can say, oh, but only send this email to the associated parents. I think that's been around a while. And then a huge one, much more recent, is same object associations. So one thing we came across, again, a lot in the schools market, although it has come up with colleges and things as well, is contacts associated with contacts, or deals associated with deals. So if let's take a pipeline, let's say there's students and there's siblings. The ability to, from one object, see that they are linked to another object like that. Contacts, if there are two contacts who are associated, maybe they're, maybe it's mother and father, or maybe it's, that's probably the most common actually in a school environment. But the fact that you can see those like objects now associated, that's been quite a big one. For a long time, schools and colleges as well would say, oh, this is great, we can see how the objects are used, but where do I see siblings? And well, you could go to the contact, and then you can see the associated, deals, but they're like, yeah, but on the child record, where would I go? And it, so we're really excited about that as a new feature. And I think associations more broadly, just coming back to custom objects. So we've seen some really creative use cases for custom objects over the last year. A couple of popular ones in the sector have been, tracking partnerships. So let's say I'm a university and we have a partnership with whatever external company, and we want to track how many applications are coming from that partnership. Again, having the ability to then add association labels and just to see the relationship between these objects is key. One of our clients has implemented custom objects for like student union activities. And built a really cool, a bit of custom development here, but they built a really cool system where the students, once they are a student on site, can log in online and can register for an upcoming student union event. That will then create that association between that student's record and the associated custom object. So I just think it's there's a lot more potential with this type of function.
Yeah. There absolutely is. And again, it's kind of moving HubSpot into more of that, less of just the marketing and admissions, moving students through the funnel, but actually more of that, organizational tool that can manage functional relationships outside of the student body and the recruitment engine. Yeah, one final point on this it's just an exciting prospect that some of our customers, I wouldn't have it as number one on my top trend this year. A lot of organizations are looking at it. I think it could be a big, judging on the business that we have in the pipeline this year, I think it'll be a big part of next year's rollout. But this year, a lot of customers seem to be looking really intently at building a application portal or such like within HubSpot. And if you think about it from, I suppose, the user experience, as in maybe the administrators of a system or systems at a college, and then you look at the student journey, you got like the website, which is like the front line with which people kind of either visit your organization. That's great. HubSpot can be that website, or it can link perfectly with that website. So they convert, have an early stage conversation. We know all the great things HubSpot can do in the middle, being that central source of truth, helping to nurture people down journeys, assign to different people on the team members, all the communication happening through there. And then later on, when they become a student, there's a student information system that HubSpot isn't ready to push completely off the table. There's functions there that they do that we don't, which is fine. But there is that other space kind of between the website and HubSpot as a CRM, and that's that portal where maybe an applicant might log in to maybe complete their application or to update their status or any different variation of that. And it's an exciting space that's now possible with HubSpot, with our CMS product. And on the enterprise version of CMS, which again, if you went with that, you would get custom objects, and there's a lot of other goodies that you get if you have one of your products being enterprise. But you could, and again, it does require a little bit of custom development, and our partner network is full of partners that can do that, to build that membership portal, that login area that will be unique to a particular student. So a password protected environment that they could log into that could surface information relevant to them. So James, your application is this status, you have to do this next. Check here to see how many grad points you have, what's happening in the library this week. You could actually populate my world with information that you know about me in the CRM. So that's something that is being, I suppose, grabbed by both hands by a couple of bigger organizations this year. And I think it's going to be something that's going to grow in attractiveness next year, which is pretty cool.
It's something we've, absolutely seeing an increase in demand. And I think people are, again, it comes back to that, how do we best service our customers? How do we give them a place? They shouldn't have to be chasing us for updates. They need to be able to log in and see stuff. But it's something this year we've ourselves actually set up a staff intranet on a portal, which has been it's been hugely exciting. We're still working on it. Internal projects obviously always take longer than external. But the ability to have the right content surface for the right people, knowing who's looking at it and pulling information in for that user, I think it's it's a whole step up from here's a web page and go and find your information.
Yeah. And look, even if you said internal projects always take longer, in reality for rollouts of HubSpots, that's always seen as phase 2. Phase 3, just by the very nature of it, you have to get people to your website first, and you got to get leads in the system, and then then later on you'll build your portal. But it just plays more into HubSpot being the conductor of all the different technology that you can do, that you can have, and to be that central place that can take information from your payment system, right, and then see that in the deal pipeline, but then push that and display that with a prompt in a portal for a student to do that next step. That's pretty cool stuff from an operational perspective. And again, you're into your efficiencies and your processes being tight, and what that does for an organization to help it to operate more efficiently. Like that's attractive stuff when you can display it to the right people. So watch this space is what I'd say.
I think it's a world away from perhaps what the sector's been used to as well.
Yeah.
I think when we look at other sectors, maybe some of these things might have been around a bit longer, but I think education has been slower. They've obviously had very bespoke needs. We are, a school or a college needs this, a university needs this. And I think there's, probably a bit of the software in education has never done stuff like this. It will do bits very well. But I think when you show and demo things like this, or open, maybe you've got a client and you say, have you thought about this? There's real excitement. And I think that's probably something that's taken a little bit longer in the education space, but it's certainly something we felt enthusiasm this year for.
Yeah. And look, it's no surprise really. Like, it's easy to preach this to a software company that's brand new and wants to kind of replicate what another software company does. But some universities have been around for 200, 300 years. So, they have their ways of doing it. It's working out pretty well for them. But yeah, things are changing, and there's more of a drive to get tighter on processes. And the digitalization of education is something that lends people in these institutions to want this. But yeah, it's a slow march, which is absolutely fine. It gives our product team the chance to get ahead of it. So yeah, but it's a good point. The education industry is coming at it from a very unique perspective, really, compared to other industries. So
looking ahead, where do we go from here? Let's have a chat. Predictions for the year ahead. What do you think is going to be the big wins?
Well, look, I'm probably grabbing the hot topic, and I'm gonna chat about AI for a while, Gemma. Sorry for stealing your thunder, but I really do think that it will be. Now, the reason, look, it's kind of weird. So, will AI be big next year? Like, 2023 has been the year of AI, right? It's been, since the start of the year, it's been nonstop, and I'm a big fan of it. I use it. I've got ChatGPT open when I work all the time. I use it as a personal assistant to help me think about things and to refine things, and it's great. But I work at a tech company, so I'm probably, part of their target market. I don't see AI suddenly. I don't see admissions people suddenly going massive on AI next year. But I do see, and I'm talking from a HubSpot perspective. Actually, it probably be helpful to take a step back for a second. Around our CTO and co-founder Dharmesh is obviously an incredibly bright, impressive guy, but he has long been like an advocate about the possibilities that conversational artificial intelligence, the chat element of it, what that could do for CRM. And from the start, he was on it when this all got launched. And behind the scenes, he's been, I suppose, testing things and launching new products like ChatSpot. And around inbound, like, the product just went, like, literally exploded. And as we use HubSpot in our day-to-day, and we're still catching up, let alone trying to sell it yet. So it's kind of wild. But there's two things I want people to do after this. We'll make sure it's in the notes going out. I'm starting to demo it now in the last 2 months, particularly, and it's an absolute game changer for when you're going through the platform. And then you say, listen, let's create a marketing campaign in HubSpot. You're in the education sector, and it's free. It's a public beta at the moment. It's called HubSpot Campaign Assistant, right? And just go to that. You can even have a free account with HubSpot or a paid account. You connect your account to it, and with a couple of clicks, and I'm not underselling this, with a couple of clicks, you input like which you want to build a campaign. So you're going to need a landing page. So you tell what the event is about, what the message needs to be, what the call to action is. You press a button, it takes about 30 seconds, and it takes all that information you've given it, the 3 or 4 prompts, creates content for a landing page. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing surprising there, but maps that into a landing page in HubSpot. And that's all the hard work done. And from there, you're just adapting it. You're adding an image, you're changing the color. You're fine. You can press publish and you have a landing page done in less than 2 minutes. But on top of that, the layering effect, which makes HubSpot so popular, we know a landing page is no good in isolation. So this free tool allows you to then press a button based on the same prompts. It'll spit out a really effective email to send someone when they fill in the landing page. And I've demoed this about 6 or 7 times. It's an absolute showstopper. People are absolutely loving it because they can automatically see that's going to save me legitimately hours, if not potentially days of work. And like, time is money. Obviously, you want a human eye to go over it to make sure it's all fine. We all know that with AI. And then the same tool, which I would encourage you to try, you can then click a button and it'll create an ad campaign for you. So it's kind of wild. That's happening today. And it's no longer, hey, it's done here. I got to copy and paste and put it into HubSpot. It's mapping the information and putting it into the templates that are already easy to use in HubSpot. So I just think marketeers will probably be a little bit quicker to grab that than maybe recruitment or admissions people in HubSpot. But like, AI is being baked into the platform all over. So I don't even know what's going to happen next year. But I would encourage any marketeers in the call who are using HubSpot in a paid or free capacity and are curious about this, I would just grab it. HubSpot.com campaign assistant. You heard it here first. It's really, really good. Yeah, I don't know what
that's huge. Like, it's really big, and I think it's things like that. I agree. Piggybacking on AI being the big prediction for the year ahead as well. But I think we can see just how much stuff has come this year, and it's still like in its infancy. When you look at what's possible, and tools like that, huge game changers. So I think it will continue to evolve, and I think that's where we're going to see the biggest growth. And it's some of the things, little bits within the tool as well. So I've built a dashboard that I'm going to be sharing, full of reports. Can you just write a summary of what this dashboard is, or about this workflow? It's some of the internal bits as well. So there's obviously the huge potential for conversations, huge potential for marketing, but also I think sometimes just them time saver bits that ultimately make your CRM a nicer place to work as well.
That's a really good point. And like, I'm not an overly technical person, or even broadly technical, to be honest. That's one of the exciting pieces. Now, that's the chat spot element that Dharmesh has been building towards the back of the year. I think there's improvements to still be running it. There's a few bugs to be cleaned up in it, or for it to become more effective. But what it'll do is it'll make, like, the reason why HubSpot is very, very popular and increasingly so is because we've gone about CRM in a different way to some of our competitors that were doing it a bit before us. So it just inherently is easier to use, right? But for some people, it's still a whole new way of doing things, and it can be scary. And all the Academy videos you do, still, there's a bit of a while to go before you're comfortable using the system, or to build a report, or to refine a dashboard, as you said. But yeah, if you can just type into the system, please show me all the people who attended the event last year, and it gives you the report, then that's no longer a barrier for anyone of any, technical proficiency, or, a department or whatever. People can really grab that, I think, with both hands. So yeah, the more conversational element of surfacing information, or getting the information you need for the CRM, that's going to be huge. I would say, particularly for, say, back office teams that maybe were reluctant to come into HubSpot in the beginning. So yeah, AI doesn't need to be shiny new campaigns. It can just be getting simple information from the system in an easier way, right?
That's the door for admissions teams, I think. To embrace AI anyway. Okay, so we are just about out of time. So if anybody has got any questions at all, pop them in the chat, and we would love to answer them. Any comments on what you think you've seen, if you've seen any trends this year that maybe we've missed, or what you're predicting for the year ahead. It's great to have the conversation. The people that in this event today are all working with the education sector, or are within the education sector. So, it's a good opportunity to share ideas. And just while you're dropping those in the chat, we do share some follow-up resources as well. So there'll be a few bits shared with you following the session, including a whole range of resources around sort of blog articles that we think you'll find useful, downloadable resources, as well as we'll make sure the link to the campaign assistant is in there as well, because I feel like we all want to go and have a play with that and get the most out of that. Yeah, so take a look at these. We will, of course, share the event recording as well if there's anything you want to look back on. Yeah, and yeah, loads of bits you can take a look at. And thanks as well for being part of our community. We are looking at continuing to build our Facebook and LinkedIn groups as an opportunity for you to get involved in the conversation. If you have clients in the education space, or if you are in the education space yourself, it's a good opportunity to meet others. And I suppose just to finish up, we've just worked on our Hug schedule for the year ahead. So we have some exciting sessions planned for early in 24. Can't believe we're talking about that already. But we'll be diving into HubSpot Enterprise level and what that can offer, and then some top tips for implementing HubSpot. I'd like to say thank you, James, hugely for you joining us today. It's nice to share some of these ideas together, and yeah, exciting times.
My pleasure. Thanks very much, Gemma and Sophie. Cheers, everyone.
Lovely. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
See you. Bye.
Bye.